Good evening and welcome to Dead Sleep True Crime for Bedtime. I'm Nancy Miller, the creator of this podcast, and what you are about to hear is a short teaser for the latest bonus episode. As you may or may not know, Dead Sleep is 100% ad-free and listener-supported. That means it really does rely on you, the listener, to succeed. If you would like to ensure the success of this podcast and enjoy a subscriber-only bonus episode each month, please feel free to subscribe via Spotify, Patreon, and Apple Podcasts. Just a few dollars a month really does make a difference in covering the essential production costs in making this podcast. Thank you for supporting my work, and I hope my work supports you. You can enjoy a free month on Apple Podcasts and a free 7-day trial on Patreon. Thank you. And now, on to the teaser of the latest bonus episode. This is the June 2026 bonus episode of Dead Sleep True Crime for Bedtime. It's Nancy, and thank you so much for joining me and for supporting this podcast. Usually I'll spend a couple of minutes teasing the episode, but since this is a subscriber bonus and we're among friends, why don't we just get started and we dive straight into the mystery as we travel to a dreamy destination, a cozy summer cottage located in the remote reaches of Denmark. A Scandinavian paradise, a seaside hamlet called Nore Nebel. Nore Nebel, population roughly 1,000, is a place of true tranquility where there is nothing to do except bring a towel and a book, head to the beach, and take in some of the freshest air and most unspoiled beauty in all of Europe. No obnoxious tourists, no aggressive jet skis, just soothing waters, squawking birds, and low-key Danish families. Many of them have owned houses here for generations. The summer houses in this part of Denmark, they're all similar. Comfortable, but modest. A couple of rooms, a kitchen, a living room, along with a very appealing and uniquely Scandinavian feature: a small, heated indoor pool and sauna, often located just off of the living room, and can be used no matter the weather. The owner of this particular summer house, we'll call him Peter. Peter bought this property back in 2008 as an investment opportunity. And so far, that investment, it paid off. The summer house was typically booked all season. But this particular week, the first week of June 2017, it was a little different. In all of the years he'd owned this property, this was the first time he was renting to a British couple who were traveling all the way from Manchester to stay at this property for a few days. It seemed like an awfully long way to travel for a seaside retreat. Coming to this spot from Manchester, well, it was a 2-hour flight from northern England to Copenhagen, then a 3.5-hour-long drive from Copenhagen to this spot. So far off the map, most people outside of Denmark had no idea it existed. Then again, these were not your typical English tourists. The couple who were visiting were midlife multi-millionaires. 44-year-old property developer Donald McPherson and his wife, 47-year-old Paula Leeson. Perhaps this visit was business and pleasure. Maybe these Brits were looking for a new investment opportunity. Or maybe they just wanted to go somewhere completely different. Somewhere so far off the map, nobody back home would even be able to find them. They had complete privacy. Just the two of them. Completely, utterly alone. Honestly, it wasn't Peter's business, and they'd paid for their few days, and so he made sure the place was clean and ready, and assumed that this couple would have a quiet, if uneventful time. And so he was shocked when he received a phone call from the local Danish police who told him to come to the summer house. Something terrible has happened. Police cars, emergency vehicles, even a helicopter swarmed around his summer house. And from that day, June 6th, 2017, few would even remember it as a place for a holiday vacation, but as the site of a tragic and mysterious death. The fatal drowning of 47-year-old Paula Leeson. Paula Leeson, police said. She was found dead, floating on top of that indoor pool. Nobody knew how it happened, not even her husband, though he did his best to explain everything he could to local police. The night before, that's Monday, June 5th, his wife Paula complained she wasn't feeling well, that she had something wrong with her stomach, and it was serious enough that she basically retreated to the second bathroom, the one located close to the indoor pool. The following morning, she still wasn't feeling well, so the two stayed in bed most of the morning. Donald said he fell back asleep, and when he awoke, she wasn't there next to him. So he got up, wandered through the kitchen, the living room to check on her in the second bathroom, and that's when he spotted her. She wore black pants, a red crop top, and she was on her stomach, face down, floating in the pool. He recalled jumping into the water to quickly remove her from the pool, but he couldn't maneuver her. He was short, barely 5 feet tall, and she was 5'5". And while he was no weakling, he suffered a shoulder injury and couldn't lift her out of the pool. And despite trying for several heroic minutes, he pulled on her arms, he pulled around her neck. It was like dead weight. Panicked, he searched for his phone but couldn't find it anywhere, so he dashed out to get help, racing to 2 neighbors' houses next door. But no one appeared to be home. He then ran back to the house, back to the pool, and tried once again to pull his wife out of that pool. This time, he used all of his strength, grabbing her quite roughly, and successfully this time, getting her halfway out of the pool. Then he called emergency services. He didn't speak Danish, but he explained the best he could what was happening, and he performed CPR as instructed until the paramedic arrived. Both he and the paramedic moved Paula from the pool room to the living room. And that's when the paramedic attempted to save her life. But it was too late. And a doctor confirmed her death at 2:25 that afternoon, June 6th. This was a lot for local authorities to take in, and they weren't quite sure what to make of Mr. McPherson's story. They didn't want to rush to any conclusions, especially with a case involving a foreign tourist. So the local police asked him questions, made their notes, sealed off the house, filed a report, and decided to wait. They really wouldn't know anything until an autopsy was performed. And from there, these Danes could understand what they were dealing with. Was the death of Paula Leeson Ulge an accident, or Mua murder? To perform this post-mortem, they ultimately sent it to the very best expert they had, a forensic pathologist named Peter Leff. Dr. Leff was a forensic pathologist, a professor at the University of South Denmark. He was an experienced and widely respected MD, as well as a published scientist. But for this particular postmortem, he also had to play Sherlock Holmes. He was working closely with the police to determine what really happened here, searching for physical clues, hoping he could determine whether or not her death was indeed a tragic accident or a possible homicide. When Dr. Leff began his examination on the body of Paula Leeson, he only knew a few details from the police report. He knew the woman, Paula Leeson, was in her late 40s. He knew she was British. He knew she'd been found in a pool by her husband. He understood she didn't know how to swim. He also understood the police were suspicious of the husband. At the same time, they had no physical evidence he'd done anything. So it was just as possible she had indeed fallen into the pool. Could Dr. Leff figure out the truth? Right away, Dr. Leff noticed mysterious marks along Paula's neck. These marks were interesting. Not external signs of strangulation, but evidence of bleeding just under the skin. Dr. Leff also found signs of injury along the sides and back of Paula's head. There were other bruises and abrasions, a total of 13 along her body, more than usual for a fall into a pool. Then he learned from police that Donald McPherson had a shoulder injury and that he had a difficult time getting his wife out of the pool. So Dr. Leff and his team reasoned those cuts and abrasions could have come from that effort. Dr. Leff was also careful to note what he didn't see. He did not see any defense wounds, nothing that revealed signs of a struggle. He was certain about one thing. Her lungs were filled with water. She died as a result of drowning. But whether that drowning was accidental or intentional, unfortunately, he couldn't say. So he noted it was possibly a homicide, but it was also possibly an accident. If Danish authorities were going to pursue this case and treat it as a possible homicide, well, that determination would have to come down to more evidence. And well, in their investigation, they simply didn't have physical evidence proving Don McPherson killed his wife. So they ultimately ruled her death was an accident. She somehow fell into the pool. She couldn't swim, and she drowned. After 2 weeks, the investigation was finished. Paula's remains were released. Donald McPherson was free to go. And Peter was allowed to rent his summer house once again. On June 21st, 2017, Paula Leeson returned to Manchester. Only this time, She came back in a casket. The process is called repatriation. And that process of sending bodies back to their home countries, it's a whole niche travel industry all its own. A process that includes the hiring of an international funeral director to coordinate with local funeral directors to ensure the body is returned safely. That means a corpse must be prepared for transport, which means her body was embalmed first by a local funeral director in Denmark, then placed in a hermetically sealed zinc-lined coffin, then encased in a transport-safe wooden shell. Then, the coffin is transported as special air cargo, typically on a commercial flight. The process is complicated, time-consuming, and expensive without special travel insurance. In the majority of travelers, we're prone to take the calculated risk and assume we won't die while on vacation. We often skip the insurance, especially for a quick getaway where the most strenuous activities were reading by the beach. But what do you know? Don McPherson just happened to buy travel insurance for this trip when he booked it a month earlier. So instead of costing him thousands of pounds, the expenses were largely covered. More than that, he stood to make a profit because he didn't just take out one travel policy. He took out 3. It was almost as if he knew something bad was going to happen to his wife. It was almost as if he was planning on it.